How dare you talk to me like that? Don't you know that I'm your mom, I'm your dad? You don't question me, you don't ask me why I talk to you. When I was growing up, I never questioned my parents, so how dare you? Hello everyone, how are you all doing today? I hope you're good. Today we are going to be following up from what I talked about 2 days ago on parenting. Today we're going to look at poor parenting and the effects it can have on children. What is actually poor parenting? Poor parenting is a series of actions that can affect a child's psyche. It may not be intentional, however, it does not remove the negative effect it can have on a child. So we have to bear these things in mind. I want to start with Bible passage. Ephesians 6 verse 4 says, "Fathers, do not provoke your children to anger by the way you treat them. Bring them up with the discipline and instruction that comes from the Lord." So my first point today on the effects of poor parenting is discipline. If we don't discipline our children, it's a sign of poor parenting. How you discipline yours and how I discipline mine might not be the same, but the important thing is that we have to have some form of discipline, so that when you discipline them, explain to them why you're disciplining them, and don't use a harsh discipline like in those days they're just flogging somebody and don't explain to them why you're flogging them, or because they know why you're flogging them, they've done something wrong, but you have to explain to them why that thing is wrong and then correct them. Use other forms of discipline. It's not one size fits all. So, and parenting is it's not a simple task. It's just not just having a child and that's it. There's a lot of things involved in parenting. So that's why we have to be very, very intentional when it comes to parenting and know what we want out of it. It's not one size fits all. How you do your own parenting and how I do mine might not be the same, but there are basic things that we all have to be, considering. So what I'm going to share today is just very, very small aspect of poor parenting and the effect we have on children. On Sunday, when we do live stream, we can elaborate because there are other things I would like to bring in. But today, with the sit-down video, I don't like it to be long. So one thing, number one, I've said is discipline. And number two is being specific. When you speak to your children, be very specific with them. Not just telling them and using codes to explain things to them is not good. Be very, like sex education, tell them exactly what you're talking about. Especially, it depends on their age of understanding, but you have to start on time to give these sex education, because, sorry, I'm outside and there's a plane going up there, but I'm sure you can still hear me. They're teaching them a lot now in school, and outside, even with their mates, they might just be talking about things. And if you have not already told them at home, they may be misled. But if you teach them already and they already have an idea what you're saying, and then also ask them questions when they come back from school and what went on today, and then they can tell you whether what you have discussed with them was actually raised up today or something like that. So be very specific with them. So discipline, be specific. Another thing is, when you discipline them, don't do it outside, especially when they do something out there. Try and find a way of managing it, but when you get home, then you can do the discipline, but not outside, because they don't, it affects their morale. So depending on the age of the children, obviously, try not to discipline them outside. For our younger ones running around the shops, you can just take your child with you, make sure that they're not running around. But for an older child that done something that you don't like outside, when you get home, discipline them and tell them why, so that next time they will not do such things. Set boundaries and explain why you're setting those boundaries, because if you don't set the boundaries, or you set boundaries and you're not telling them why you're setting those boundaries, they may not fully understand you, because they may go out there and see that their friends are allowed to do certain things, and they come home and you set these boundaries, they're not allowed to do this, But my friend does this, or my friend, there won't be any need for that, because you will explain to them why you're setting that boundaries, that friend, that's how they choose to do it in their own home, but in your own home, this is what we want to be happening, and explain to them the reason why, the benefits of why you're setting those boundaries. It does help the child to actually understand what you are saying, or why you're doing what you're doing. Always be ready to explain. Don't always say because I say so. It's not a good way of bringing up a child or children. The next thing is not withholding affection. Look, when they do something wrong and you're not happy with them, and especially when they're much younger, they might be coming to you for a hug and you're pushing them away because you're not happy with them. No, that's a sign of bad parenting. You don't do that. Hug them still, and then later on you can correct them, or you can tell them why you're not happy with them. Explain to them, because they may not fully understand. So always don't push them away and don't withhold affection. Another sign of bad parenting is not trusting your child, or your child not trusting you, because maybe there are things that they expect you to tell them, or you have not actually told them, or you are suspicious of them, you don't trust them. It's a sign of bad parenting. You have to trust your child, and your child have to trust you, because when they trust you, they will be open to you. But I'm talking about both parents here. If you are obviously have both parents, if you're a single mom as well, or single dad, again, it's the same thing. Let them trust you. Let them know that they can come to you with anything that is going on in their lives. They can talk to you, and they trust you to be able to guide them properly. So trust is a big thing, especially when your children, from any age really, they have to have that level of trust for you, and vice versa. Another thing is avoid being aggressive, because that poor parenting, sure, it can be a poor parenting style when you are aggressive in nature. No, don't be aggressive when you are doing things, when you want to resolve something, especially with your own spouse at home. Don't be aggressive, because they pick these things up, and the children will see that thing, what you're doing. It's a sign of poor parenting, and they will go out there and they start exhibiting that because they think it's the right thing to do. When people talk to them, they become aggressive, they do this, they want to react in a certain way. No, let us always lead them by example. And also, a lot of our children now are in Young Offenders Institute, being locked away because of one thing or the other. Antisocial, or in America they say antisocial or antisocial behavior, kind of lead children to do all sorts of things out there, and it leads them into trouble. And mind you, when your child gets into trouble, you are not going to be at rest yourself, because it will affect everyone. That's why it's important to do what you can for these children. Help them as much as you can, because you're also helping yourself. Because if they get into any trouble, you're not going to have rest yourself. Proverbs 29 verse 17 says, discipline your children, and they will give you peace. Discipline your children, and they will give you peace of mind, and your heart will be glad. Something like that. Yeah, discipline your children, and they will give you peace of mind, and your heart will be glad. So when you're doing these things, you're actually doing it to help yourself as well, because if they go out there and get into all sorts of problems, you're not going to have rest of mind. It's going to affect you as well. So it's always good to start on time to discipline them, and then you also have rest of mind. Poor parenting also can manifest by the way you bring out yourself, even in the public, because the children who are with you, maybe they go out with you and they're watching you, what you do in public, how you speak to people, how you comport yourself, how you respond when people say anything to you. They're picking these things up. So whether at home or in the public, try and comport yourself, because the children are watching. And sometimes you wonder, why did they pick these things up? They're picking them up from you, or they're picking them up from outside. Another thing that I will advise parents not to do, I don't know whether it's still happening. I remember when my children were growing up, they have this thing they called sleepover. I never understood it, so I never allowed my children going to somebody's house to sleep over. As what? As part of a friendship or what? When they are quite young. It's not to be encouraged. I don't like it, especially now. You don't even know who their parents are. You don't know who they are. You don't know what goes on. When we mean sleepover, means that they're sleeping over in somebody's own house. And anything can happen, anything can go wrong. So I will advise against that. Never ever allow that to happen, because there may be consequences and you might have to regret that for the rest of your lives. So that's a sign of poor parenting. Another sign of poor parenting is not being attentive and not listening. I think I brought that up in what I said 2 days ago, but I need to bring it up again, that you need to be attentive. You need to be ready to listen to them, no matter how busy you are. Because if you're not attentive and you're not ready to listen to them, they will not bother telling you anything. They'll just be holding it themselves or try to deal with things how they feel able, because you don't have time to them. There's no point coming to you because you don't have time to them. That's a sign of poor parenting. Let us always be ready to hear them out, and if you need to correct them in love. It's very, very important. So I think there's so many things to bring up, but these are just these little things I just want to bring out today. And on Sunday, we're going to have a live stream where we're going to talk more about parenting, effects of poor parenting, and other things around that. Because when something goes wrong in the family, when there's children, goes wrong, between husband and wife, when there's children involved, they take the whole brunt of it. They haven't asked you to bring them into the world, so you must always try to protect them. And this idea of telling children off and telling them that you regret having them as your child is a sign of bad parenting. You don't tell a child that you regret having them, that they are terrible, that this and that. They didn't ask you to have them, so regretting having them is nothing to do with them, because they didn't ask you to have them. You chose to have them. And for you to use such words on them is not good. So we have to always watch what we say. The children have nothing to do with the problem you're having with your spouse. They are just there because you had them. You could have chosen not to have children and just be on your own, but you chose to have them. So you have to make allowances for them and not always tell them off that you regret having them and stuff like that. I hear parents use such words. That's a very bad sign, sign of bad parenting. You don't do that. Anyway, as I say, I'm going to leave it here. On Sunday, 3 p.m. UK time, we're going to have a live stream. That will be the same time at Nigeria, and I think Europe it will be 4 p.m. and I don't know what time it will be in America or other parts of the world. Join us on Sunday for live stream. I would like many people as possible to come on stage with me. I'm sure you have your own, even the younger moms. I would like to hear from the younger ones. And then, because some of us whose children are adult children, we have our own different experiences. I would like to hear your own experiences as well. So we want it to be interactive on Sunday. I want people to come on stage so we can talk and address this, because a lot of issues, a lot of problems. Our children are wasting away in young offenders unit because of poor upbringing. Don't get me wrong, you may still do all that you have got to do, and they still turn out like that. Then you know that at least you have done your best. And at every stage of child upbringing, the prayer, you must always pray for them. Lay hands on them before they go to school. Lay hands on them before they go to bed. Do things that you can. Pray for them. Do your own bit. And then follow it up with prayer. And then, obviously, leave the rest to God. Provided you do your own bit, God will not allow them to derail like that. But we must do our bit, and we must be very, very prayerful, because the day is evil. There's a lot of distractions out there for our children. So we have to do what we have to do and be prayerful. Thank you so much. I'm hoping to see most of you on Sunday so we can continue with this discussion. This video is almost 15 minutes now, and I don't like to be too long because I like people to watch to the end. So please share this video out. Make sure you watch to the end. I'm sure you pick one or two things up, and join us on Sunday as we continue this discussion. Thank you so much. God bless you, and goodbye.